Beka Se has had a Dove Award nomination, 2 top 10 hits on Christian radio, and she's even been featured as iTunes Discovery Download of the Week.
And this is a song for those who need hope.
But before the limelight and fame, Beka endured years of heartache. When she was 4 years old, her parents divorced. Her mother's second husband was abusive, so Beka and her mom often fled for safety.
We would stay in hotels, we would stay with family members, friends' houses. We would just be all over the place, and there were some times that it was really bad where I was taken to foster home. We stayed in battered women's shelters for 3 to 6 months at a time.
But Beka says she had a source of comfort during those times. She met Jesus as a young child.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a supernatural encounter with Jesus. And it looked like as if you were just to look at the sun. And I was obviously curious, so I got out of bed and I walked towards the door. I just was attracted to the light, so I kept walking. And as I got closer to the door, the light began to take form and shape. And he was wearing a white robe and he hugged me. In those times, that would normally be lonely or scary times. God was real to me. He was that hug.
When Beka's mother married a third time, the family moved to upscale Orange County, California. For Beka, this was culture shock.
I suddenly began to realize that I wasn't pretty enough or skinny enough. I believed I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't good enough.
Beka struggled with bulimia and depression.
I became very insecure and totally self-absorbed. And at that point, I began to hate myself.
Beka says she totally walked away from God.
I dabbled with so much little bits. I partied a little bit. I drank just a little bit. I experimented with drugs just a little bit. I was promiscuous just a little bit.
In 2001, Beka moved to Las Vegas to sing in a cover band. Beka calls it the dark period in her life.
It was dark in the sense of the atmosphere that was surrounding me, because I was in a house full of guys that were all on drugs. And we were singing in bars where there was like bar brawls and things like that. I was so just desperate for light and God, and so I found a church, and I remember just crying out to God and repenting, saying, how have I gotten this far from you, or just forgive me. And it was just an awesome moment with me and God, and I asked him to make a way out for me. And immediately after the service, a woman came up to me and asked if she could pray for me. And and I had to tell her, like, she said, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm in a cover band." And I was like so ashamed. I was like, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I love the Lord and I love to sing songs to him. And she invited me to call her daughter, who lives in Nashville and has an apartment for rent and has some friends in the Christian music industry.
Beka moved to Nashville and found a great church and made Christian friends.
It was like I was in a dry and thirsty place, and he was my refreshing. And when I got that taste of, water, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to have. This is where I belong. This is who I am. And that was where the true repentance took place. God's kindness and his love led me to the place I needed to be.
Beka's music career took off. She met Jack in 2002, and they married 2 years later.
God is not finished. He has a plan, he has a purpose, and he has a destiny for your life. You have to know this. You have to understand that to see yourself the way that God sees you is the beginning of freedom.